Gone are the brutal massacres of the past, but the intent is the same: destroy Christianity and create an Islamic state throughout Indonesia. 10 years have now passed since the worst of the jihad against Christians here in Indonesia, but today believers are still suffering, especially those who convert from Islam to Christianity and those who share their faith with others. Also, churches are being closed down. It's a shift in tactics for extremist groups such as the Islamic Defenders Front, FPI. They incite mob violence, force churches to close, and push for the arrest of church officials and evangelists. One of the worst attacks came against the Philadelphia Batak Christian Protestant Church of Bekasi last Christmas. A mob similar to this one gathered at the local mosque and then tried to prevent the Christians from meeting at their newly built church. Pastor Palti says the mob grew to about 1,500.
Some threw stones and were shouting, "Allahu Akbar, God is great." Others were calling us kafirs, infidels, and pigs, and yelling obscenities. Some carried sticks and others shouted, "Burn the church! Close it down!"
Local officials closed the church last January. Since then, Christians have worshipped outside every Sunday in front of the church gate. Angry Muslims placed cow manure, broken glass, and dead rats in the street the night before in hopes of deterring worship attendance. The Indonesian Constitution guarantees religious liberty, but Christians say they experience less freedom than the Muslim majority. Mosques are being built, but few new churches are allowed for a growing Christian population. And what about former Muslims who embrace Christianity in the world's most populous Muslim nation? Just ask Ramat, Lydia, and Cornelius. We're hiding their identities because each has suffered persecution at the hands of family members or government officials. Ramat came to Christ while in prison. After a Bible was discovered in his prison cell, Ramat says he was tortured, forced to stand naked in the prison yard and salute the Indonesian flag while balancing a Bible on his head. When the Bible fell, he was tortured again, and a page of the Bible was shoved into his mouth. Ramat says he was then sent without clothes to a small isolation cell, where he had to endure mosquito bites and frigid temperatures.
I cried out to the Lord, "Please, God, help me endure this trial that you have given me by returning my clothes."
A prison guard returned his clothes the following day. Ramat's faith remained strong. Weeks later, as he was released from prison, the warden asked if Ramat was a Muslim or a Christian.
I told him when I first came to the prison I was a Muslim, learning about Christianity. Now, as I live here, I am convinced I am a Christian.
After she became a Christian, Lydia, a mother of 6, endured brutal beatings from her Muslim husband. Often the assaults occurred in front of their children. One Sunday, after Lydia's husband discovered she had attended church, he approached her with his lit cigarette.
He told me, "Your religion will take you to hell, so you will feel the fire. How about you feel this?"
Lydia's husband then pulled her head back and flicked a hot ash into her right eye. Attacks like this continued, and her husband eventually forced her and the children out of the house. The Voice of the Martyrs Australia helped Lydia find housing and provided her with seed money to start a business. Muslim family members also kicked Cornelius out of his house when they discovered he had become a Christian. He says he escaped death when his cousin attempted to run him over with a motorcycle.
I later called my cousin on the phone and said, "I forgive you for trying to kill me." He said I was an infidel, and he told me to never phone him again.
Cornelius is now sharing his faith with others and often shows the Jesus film to Muslim teens. These new believers and the Indonesian church continue to grow in faith and scope, despite the militant attempts to destroy the movement.
Before we had this problem, believers seldom came to church. But when the persecution came, they got incentive to come to church and pray and gather together in unity. My congregation has a commitment to keep doing the service because the church is not a building. The church is the believers.
And they're asking God and government to create a more tolerant society, one where they're better protected from extremist violence. Meantime, they'll continue to gather in apartments, small house churches, and even in the streets, wherever they can, despite the risks. Gary Lane, CBN News, Jakarta.